Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little piece right here. This is the Protech Magic 2. So I did a review previously, the Protech Magic, which was a smaller knife that had a similar trick to it. But I got a chance to check out one of these guys, and that's very much thank you to my buddy over at Indiana Knives. It's a small shop local in Bloomington, Indiana, and he gave me a great deal on this guy, and so thank you very much to that. Next thing, let's do a size comparison here. This is a big freaking knife, absolutely. Here it is against your Ontario Rat number 1 here, your Ontario Rat number 2 here in the D2 steel. So we can see here, holy crap, this is big. Here it is against your Spyderco Delica. Boom. Again, this is a large freaking knife. I mean, within the blade of the Delica, within the blade of this knife, the Delica damn near fits. I mean, this is a big in here. Then here it is against the ZT 0452 CF. Sadly, I don't have the Magic 1 anymore, so I can't do that comparison, but still. And then finally, well, actually, not quite finally. Next thing, this is an automatic knife in mostly, legal jurisdictions and whatnot. And what this means is that you're going to have legal trouble with this knife, flat out. For some reason, people have decided that knives that open on, when you press something on the handle are inherently more dangerous than knives that open when you press something on the blade. Whatever, I don't get it. Scared people do silly things. But that means that this knife may actually be flat out illegal in your area. It may be illegal to carry. It may be illegal to even own. It may be illegal to even think about. Whatever, but that's something you're going to want to keep in mind and check your local laws before you make any kind of order on something like this. Then finally, a quick note on how you actually open this knife. This is a knife that, on the surface, has no way to open it. If you pull on the blade, absolutely nothing happens. There are no buttons. None of these things are buttons at all. There is nothing that you can do. In fact, this knife opens by magic, because watch, wow, it's open. But I didn't do anything. I didn't touch anything. Well, it turns out that the approach to opening this knife is actually the fact, the only thing that you can see that kind of belies this is a little bit of kind of, texturing right here. The way that you open this knife is that you make sure you pull this scale on the bottom backwards towards me in this situation and this one frontwards. So if I do that, if I kind of use my fingers here, you can see here what happens is that when I do that, this little back lock spring in the back pops open, and the knife pops open. You should absolutely watch the disassembly video of this knife because it'll give you a better sense of how that works, and the workings of that mechanism are both really, really neat and really informative as to why I like this knife so damn much. So anyways, let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this particular pocket knife here. So first off, on the good side, the action on it is very good. It is a reliable opener, 100%. There is just no problem whatsoever with this knife, and I appreciate that very, very much. Next thing, this guy is got a very nice blade to it. It is a 154 cm sort of blade. 154 cm is one of those steels that's absolutely good to go. It has a very nice finish to it. As you can see here, it's got a little bit of a polish to it. Can't argue with that whatsoever. It has a very nice swedge to it, which is great. I mean, you can see it just adds a little bit more dramatic effect to the top of it here. It's got a very nice sharpening choil, which, is completely covering the plunge grind, which actually goes as far as into the handle there, which is good. I like the blade on this guy very much, and at the tip, it is actually reasonably thin, and it is, although not super thin behind the edge, it is definitely thin enough to cut. So I appreciate very much the blade on this guy. Next thing, the clip on this guy is very good as well. It is very subtle. It's a long black clip here, but it's a deep carry clip, and it is a deep carry clip that's well done. You can see here that they've recessed the screws and the bottom of the clip into the handle itself, which means that there is a bunch of space in there for your pocket, as opposed to, I know I've got a violator of this right here. Here we go. This is this is a Kaiser Knives 10-gram knife, and you can see here that the clip actually sticks up off of the handle of the blade, and then the screws step further into there, which really minimizes the usefulness of a deep carry clip. Protech is great at deep carry, so that's good. Next thing, the takedown on this guy is very easy. As you saw watching this assembly video, there's not that much to this knife, even though it seems very complex on the surface, and I appreciate that very much. And it is a backlock, and at the end of the day, backlocks are great. It is a very strong locking mechanism. Absolutely one of the strongest, if not the strongest locking mechanisms out there are backlock variants, things like that. And not that that matters a whole lot, but backlocks really do work well. And they're easy and they're straightforward, and this is, yeah. And then it is nice in the hand. Ergonomically speaking, this works very nicely. So you've got some nice grooves here. It's got enough thickness and size. The balance is, by and large, pretty good. The clip is done in such a way that it fills the hand rather than punishing the hand. And then finally, I gotta say, I like the aesthetics of it very much. It is a very minimalist sort of knife. There's not much going on here, but what is going on here is very attractive. And the fact that there is no external hardware, no buttons, no nothing, makes this a simpler looking knife than pretty much anything out there. I mean, even the blade is mostly sterile with the exception of some billboard and whatnot. And so I love the aesthetic of this guy very much. And so to me, all of that is the good. Is it's got this nice minimal aesthetic. It's very nice in the hand. The backlock on it is great. Easy takedown, nice clip, nice blade, and a very good action. To me, what is really great about this guy, though, is the implementation. I was kind of, let's be honest here, fangirling a little bit about the freaking, the construction of this guy during the disassembly. But the thing is, this is a very, very, very smart design because they've created, the designer that is, Whiskers, I forget his actual name, but he goes by Whiskers, has created a knife that uses very, very simple elements, namely a backlock and then the ability for one of these scales to shift to create something that is very complex, a hidden release automatic knife. This is very, very, very simple, even more so than the Magic 1, which had that separate plate over there. You had to move independently of everything else. It is an elegant design. It is incredibly elegant. You look at that and it's just like, holy crap, high five, buddy, for well freaking done with that design. And so to me, what is absolutely great about this knife is the engineering design, and the gracefulness of it. This is a beautifully complex thing coming out of beautifully simple materials and approaches, which just I freaking love. And so that's what's great to me, is that this is a complicated seeming thing, but it's done really simply thanks to incredibly intelligent work. So that's what's great. On the bad side, there are some bad things here. First off, this is a knife that you cannot open conventionally. It's not the case, for instance, that if you hand this guy to a coworker, they will just be able to pop the blade out, normally speaking. This will confuse the heck out of somebody. Or if you're in an accident, someone needs to steal your knife to cut the seatbelt loose, they're not going to be able to freaking open the thing. It is, and that's not great. The other issue is that it is an automatic-only opening knife, which means that if you're in the lunchroom, you're opening automatically. That said, this guy is pretty easy for you to kind of catch the blade. So, and I got to the point where I could do this pretty readily, where you just have your hands here and you act like you're grabbing the blade. In fact, you grab the blade, but then you disengage it and then you pop it open like that. And if you do that gracefully, no one's the wiser. It just feels like you grabbed the blade and you did it two-hand open. And you also have the option to open fully auto and whatnot. So it's not a terrible thing, but I kind of hope that the next Magic is going to offer the choice of being a conventional open or an automatic one, because I think that's a nice thing. Anyways, beside the point, though, I get why they couldn't have done it here with the backlog system. Next thing, this is a little bit on the thick side, absolutely. Here it is against, where's my Rat 1 here? This is about as thick as your Rat 1 here, and that's pretty thick. This is a beefy little knife here. And unfortunately, the balance is a little bit weird as well, because it has a great deal of handle, so it balances a little further back than I might like. Whatever, not a big deal, but it is a deal. Next thing, this is a big knife. Seriously, at every level, this is huge freaking tacular. And the blade length comes in someplace between, 3.75 and 4 inches, depending on how much the cop hates you. And so not only are you carrying an automatic knife, which the law is unlikely to look kindly upon, they're legal in Michigan now, by the way, since October of 2017, but anyways, you're also carrying a huge automatic knife. And it's kind of weird to have a stealthy automatic knife that is gigantic and stabby. I don't get it necessarily, but the size to me feels more like an impediment than anything. I kind of wish this were a 3.5-inch knife. I mean, given it probably makes more sense with this mechanism, having the thicker line is the big, because you need to be able to grip like that, but still, not a great thing. Next thing, like most Protechs, it's available mostly in black. They'll do some inlays and whatnot, but if you don't like chalky texture aluminum black, you got nothing here. So that's unfortunate. Next thing, this is very expensive. This is a $270 knife. And given that it is at its core a backlock, although with a very nifty design and whatnot, and one little spring in there, I mean, that's an expensive spring. Protech is never cheap. They're made in the States. I mean, they got some, but that's a lot of freaking money for this knife, 100%. And so you got to keep that in mind. And then, actually, yeah, that's all of the bad here, is aside from the legal entanglements, which I mentioned earlier, it's an expensive knife. It's only in black, and it's kind of that chalky black that I'm not super in love with. It is huge. The balance is a bit weird. It's a little thick. And it cannot be opened without automatic, although you can pretty easily fake it if you want to. On the ugly side, there are two issues. First off, this is a Protech, and they prohibit disassembly as a part of their warranty. That's kind of not good anyways. I can get it as they do automatic knives, but look, no, I'm sorry. If somebody takes the knife apart, puts it back together properly, you're not allowed to void the warranty. It's just stupid. And so I hope that Protech is able to fix that warranty here soon, making it so that if you damage the knife while disassembling, then it's your problem. But otherwise, the warranty is still intact. But worse still, and what makes me really frustrated by that, is that this knife actually shipped with side-to-side blade play. When I got this knife, it was poorly adjusted, such that I was unable to, such that the blade would waggle. And so you have two options, Protech. Either you allow disassembly so people can go in there and fix that, or you ship every knife absolutely freaking perfect, and then I can never touch it again. You are not allowed to send me a knife that I need to adjust and then claim that I can't adjust it. That's ugly as sin. And that's not great. I was able to fix that blade play, in a heartbeat because, you know what, screw your warranty. But that's so ugly. If you're going to make it disassemblable, you need to at least freaking make it perfect. Then finally, on the ugly side, this is an automatic knife that requires very, very careful fine motor control. This process, this popping this guy loose, is something that I had to work at, honestly. Like, there were a couple of nights where I just sat on the couch, much to my fiance's joy, and I just worked with this guy, and I kind of got to the point where I could very easily, and without a whole bunch of thinking, trigger and then untrigger this guy and fold it up and whatnot. But the thing is, it is a fine motory thing. You take this out of your pocket, you need to adjust then your grip on this guy such that your bottom four fingers are on this, and then the pad of your thumb is right here. Then, if you make the proper gesture, the blade will come popping open, and then grip it and everything. Then you need to readjust so that your fingers are exactly here, but they're not any further, because if your finger is here and you try and shut the knife, you're going to cut your fingertip off. And so you end up with a knife that is very automatic and very illegal, but requires a great deal of fine motor control. And to me, that's defeating the purpose in a lot of ways. To me, the main reason for an automatic knife to exist, to be a thing, is because automatic knives tend to be more accessible to people. A one-hand double-action off-the-front auto is about the simplest knife to deploy, period. Even if you just got one hand, etc., makes it very, very simple. And so automatic knives have that advantage for a lot of people, but this is an automatic knife that has given up that advantage and is given this mechanism that is indeed a little bit scary, because in order to close this guy, your fingers need to be very close to the blade coming into there. And so it takes some getting used to. It took a long time before I was, a fair amount of use before I felt really comfortable with, like, yeah, I can deploy this knife easily, I can put it back away easily and safely. But that's not great. And compared to the Magic 1, which had a system that, frankly, I found a little more compelling in terms of daily use, this system, it's certainly stealthier, but I don't think it's any better. And so that's the ugly, is that they've created here an automatic knife that loses all the accessibility benefits of an automatic knife by requiring crazy fine motor control. And they have a no disassembly policy, yet they ship the knife in need of maintenance. And so that's just not great. Final conclusions-wise, look, at some level, I do love this knife a lot, because this is one of the most graceful designs I'm aware of. In terms of doing something which is, on the surface, very complicated, making an automatic knife that has a hidden release sort of mechanism, which is very, very simple at its core. It's just a freaking backlock with a little bit of extra oomph in there. I mean, this is really, really cool. It is a neat design, 100%. It is an excellent knife in a lot of ways. And I have to give credit. It also can cut things. It's also ergonomic. There is a lot of joy to be found in here. I mean, the fit and finish is largely good. I mean, I love this thing, but at the same time, as neat as it is, as much as I appreciate it, and I love that freaking design, I still have to ask myself why. because you've here created a knife that is a subtle automatic knife, but it is also freaking huge. This is, I don't necessarily get that. You've also made an automatic knife, which sacrifices the accessibility, the lack of fine motor skills required, in order to do this fancy hidden thing. So you've got an auto which is requiring a lot of complexity in terms of use. And it's also minimal, yet it's also very, very expensive. This is not a knife that looks really expensive, but it turns out to be. And so this is just really weird. And so it's a great knife, but it's not really a great knife for practical use. I cannot think of a human that I would recommend this knife to for actually everyday carrying. Because by and large, there are knives that are going to be much more practical in terms of opening mechanism. There are knives that are going to be much more practical in terms of size, although, you know, in either direction. And I can't see a world in which this is the correct answer. But the thing is, the point here is to be neat. It is kind of, and that's where I landed on this guy, is that, yeah, no, it's not super practical. It's meant to be a demonstration of magic. It's a knife to show off. It's a knife for your collection. It's a knife that you bring to a gathering of knife guys and you say, hey, guys, check this out. Can you guys open this? Huh? And then they've seen this review and so they can, sorry. But nonetheless, it's a great knife, but it's not a practical knife. And although ultimately it's certainly magical, this is a very, very impractical magic. But nice job in the design nonetheless. Anyways, hope this has been interesting, that I am Protech, I guess. That's maybe the way. Anyways, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely magical rest of your day. Bye now.